Washington, D.C.
Picture perfect.
A capital americana é poder. E isso que vamos vivenciar. Poder em todas as suas formas. Ele pulsa nas veias da cidade. Está em seu DNA. Mas o poder também muda, passando constantemente daqueles que o têm para aqueles que o desafiam. Washington, batizada em homenagem ao primeiro presidente americano, evoca a força e o vigor formidáveis de uma superpotência.
E pluribus unum, out of many, one.
Começando por um símbolo desse poder. Presidentes recém-impossados têm desfilado pela Avenida Pensilvânia desde Thomas Jefferson em 1805.
This avenue of power so important, it connects the Legislative House, now called the Capitol, with the President's House, of course, the White House.
Mas Washington não é sobre um presidente ou partido político. O poder foi deliberadamente embutido na cidade desde o início, com o trabalho do franco-americano Pierre L'Enfant.
You can see L'Enfant's original outline from Washington laid out here in Freedom Plaza. The wide avenues connecting the important parts of the new city. And let's be clear, L'Enfant knew what he wanted. In his own words, he wanted a plan and a city of a magnitude worthy of a grand empire. And more, he wanted envy from other nations, both friend and foe alike.
A evidência de seus desejos grandiosos para fazer deste um lugar que seria notado de qualquer ponto é mais visível no National Mall. Não há nada por acaso no mall. Este é um exemplo explícito de excessos em que o espaço podia ser tomado na busca por imponência.
How many cities that were laid out in the 1790s with a plan that still functions today as well as this one does? It was a center for a great nation in the making.
How much of today's Washington are we looking at that was part of L'Enfant's plan?
The basic matrix of open spaces, of an irregular grid that's related to topography. It stands as one of a great city plans anywhere.
When you get to the Washington Monument, you see the beauty of the low-rise open spaces. From the monument, there's the Capitol, there's the White House, and there's the Lincoln Memorial. Genius.
Para uma capital cujo objetivo era ser grandiosa, há uma notável ausência de torres altas e estruturas gigantes para exibir suas ambições. Em Washington, D.C., há uma restrição de altura que limita o tamanho e a escala. Tudo isso por causa deste prédio, o Cairo.
The biggest myth that I hear is about the Washington height restriction.
Right.
Tell me what it is.
Well, the myth itself, if you ask, and if you go on any tour here, they'll say, oh, it's the top of the Washington Monument, or it's the top of the U.S. Capitol, which I think is really the one that people like. But it's not that at all.
Tell me where the Cairo fits into all of this.
So the Cairo was constructed in around 1894. And it goes up to a height of 165 feet. So at that time, it was the tallest building, and it really created quite an uproar because they weren't sure that a fire truck could actually put out fires way up high, and also for the light and airiness of all the surrounding development here.
O Cairo afrontou e escandalizou a população de Washington. Então, em uma cidade onde a política é tudo, você faz o que é natural. Muda a lei para impedir outros arranha-céus. Uma lei que permanece até hoje.
Let's go and see this view that they were determined that nobody else should enjoy.
So you can see the U.S. Capitol, the White Dome, and then you can come over here and there's clearly the Washington Monument right there.
Now hang on a second. What's that?
That is the National Cathedral.
They cheated.
No, I think they were following the rules on that one. If you think about our skyline in Washington, the things that are prominent are civic structures. So churches, our democratic institutions, those are the things that you see in our skyline. He wanted something grand, but he also wanted something that was a statement physically about the ideas of democracy.
Ali, olhando o horizonte, uma coisa se torna clara para Quest. O Cairo e esta vista são uma representação da cidade. Você chega ao topo e depois faz o que for preciso para proteger seu lugar lá. O simbolismo, a história. Thomas Jefferson, que foi presidente apenas 25 anos depois da fundação dos Estados Unidos, acreditava que a Avenida Pensilvânia era essencial para essa capital recém-formada que estava agora desafiando impérios do resto do mundo. Pairando por cima dela está o Hotel Willard. Nesta cidade de presidentes e políticos, Willard tem uma razão para reivindicar o título de lar não oficial do poder. O autor americano Nathaniel Hawthorne foi citado dizendo: o Hotel Willard pode ser mais precisamente chamado de o centro de Washington e da nação do que o Capitólio, a Casa Branca ou o Departamento de Estado.
In a town obsessed by lobbying and lobbyists, the Willard Hotel likes to believe that the phrase actually originated here in the lobby when the 18th president, Ulysses Grant, used to hold court over in the corner, drinking brandy and smoking cigars in the evening. And those wanting to curry favor with government would try to catch his attention. Well, the story's partially true, but the phrase lobbying probably began somewhere else. The Oval Suite. I'm in good company. Prime Minister of India, CEO of Google. Not entirely sure how they let me in.
A vista emoldurada pela janela é um lembrete de que, em Washington, D.C., uma posição proeminente importa.
From my hotel suite, yep, I can just see the corner of the White House if I sort of stand on the window ledge and twist myself around.
Há outra razão para Quest ter escolhido este hotel. Há uma pessoa ali que tem guardado os segredos dos politicamente poderosos há décadas, enquanto serve a eles uma bebida personalizada.
And here we have the classic Southern-style mint julep. What better way to lubricate those wheels of legislation?
How long have you been here?
I've been standing right here for 32 years.
It is the proximity to the White House that makes this unique.
Access to excess was fine-tuned here at the Willard Hotel.
Access to excess.
Yes.
That's brilliant. So be indiscreet. Who's the most famous person who's come in here?
About a half an hour ago, the gentleman came in here. You'd recognize him in a heartbeat.
You're not going to tell me, are you?
No, I'm not.
You're not. Does this bar change its character depending on whether there's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House?
People come and go every 2 years, 4 years, 6 years for the Senate, but there's an apparatus here that keeps things going.
But some would say that's the problem here, that the politicians may come and go, but the infrastructure, the swamp remains.
Everybody wants everybody else to change. They don't want to change themselves. And so you look at it from a perspective that sometimes in order to change, you have to have a constancy. You have to have a common denominator that's always moving forward in a direction.
Does money count in Washington, D.C.? Bearing in mind that money is the fuel of politics?
Money means so much, but accounts for so very, very little in this town.
Em outras palavras, se você não tiver uma posição de poder, o dinheiro não vai importar.
If official power in Washington is at either end of Pennsylvania Avenue, I must also make time to walk the streets of Georgetown. Here in the salons and dining rooms, traditionally, the powerful have come to play. And the woman I'm going to meet has been holding court in Georgetown for more than 4 decades.
Well, these are just prints of George Washington.
The Declaration of Independence.
Yes, yeah.
Ela é Sally Quinn, provavelmente a anfitriã mais importante de Georgetown. E tudo isso acontecia nesta casa, construída em 1700 e que já serviu de moradia para o filho de Abraham Lincoln.
Ben and I had dinner here every night when we were together.
Esse Ben é Ben Bradley, seu ex-marido e editor de longa data do Washington Post. Notoriamente, durante o caso Watergate, Sally trabalhou como repórter para o jornal. Sentar-se à mesa com Ben e Sally era poder no seu sentido mais puro.
What I've done all of my life as a writer and as an observer is to chronicle power and chronicle watching people go after it and seek it and watching people get it, and then most interesting, watching people lose it. And of course they always do lose it.
Who was the most powerful person you had here?
You know, I've had most vice presidents here. We had great journalists and we had celebrities. Hostesses derive their power from being powerful hostesses and being able to get the most powerful people to their houses.
Os jantares de Georgetown podem ser um clichê e talvez pertençam ao passado. Mas quando se trata dos bastidores do poder, eles são indispensáveis.
I think that people will often sneer at the whole idea of Georgetown dinner parties, but I think that they serve a real purpose. And when I was covering parties at the Washington Post, Republicans and Democrats would argue and fight on Capitol Hill, and then at 5 o'clock the bell would go off and they'd go in each other's offices and have a drink. It's very hard to excoriate somebody if you know them really well.
Washington, D.C., uma cidade de repúdio e de reverência, onde uma volta pelos memoriais de guerra traz à tona tempos difíceis para os Estados Unidos. E ao andar pelo National Mall, é possível sentir a importância, o poder.
Every capital city has its statues and its monuments, but Washington is different. You've got to visit the big, important monuments like the Lincoln, because it's only when you understand these that you start to understand this place and its country.
Saber mais sobre o homem apelidado de Honest Abe é imprescindível. E Richard Quest vai aprender isso não no gigantesco Lincoln Memorial, mas em um lugar bem mais modesto. A cabana de Lincoln, sua casa de verão na cidade.
I'm doing a left here, but I don't know where I'm doing. So there's Estuary, but there's Vermont over here. That's just taking me in a complete little circle. And we're back on Vermont, is it? Yes, I'm back on Vermont. I went round in a little circle. For no apparent reason.
Lincoln se deslocava de sua cabana à Casa Branca todos os dias nos meses de verão. A cavalo, são apenas 5 quilômetros.
Stop and go!
Quest vai refazer a rota de carro, mas logo percebe que, embora Washington represente os Estados Unidos, dirigir ali é diferente do que na maior parte do país.
No idea where I am. It must have been easier for Lincoln.
Foram 40 minutos para andar 5 quilômetros, mas deu certo.
A life-size horse and a life-size President Lincoln. But I need to change my headgear for this. Something more suitable. The former president had a big head. he also had a brilliant quote. Nearly all men can withstand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power.
Na verdade, ninguém tem certeza de que foi Lincoln quem disse isso, ou se isso foi dito sobre ele. Mas não importa. Ao entrar na cabana e andar pelos mesmos cômodos pelos quais ele passou, a atmosfera de poder é presença constante. Foi ali que um dos grandes líderes americanos contemplou a decisão que mudaria o equilíbrio do poder de maneira profunda.
If my name ever goes into history, it will be for this act, and my whole soul is in it. Lincoln is referring to his proclamation of 1862, the emancipation of the slaves. When Lincoln wrote it, part of it was drafted right here at the cottage.
Estar ali faz Quest perceber que os desafios enfrentados por Lincoln transcendem as décadas. Especialmente hoje, quando a harmonia racial ainda é uma questão a ser resolvida nos Estados Unidos. O que nos leva aos símbolos de poder mais óbvios dessa cidade: a Casa Branca e, do outro lado da Avenida Pensilvânia, o Capitólio. Seria fácil focar um presidente ou um político que, com uma assinatura ou um voto, possa exercer poder. Mas Eleanor Holmes Norton é única na estrutura de poder de Washington.
30 years in the House, which puts you quite high up in seniority.
And seniority matters.
Tempo de casa pode importar, mas não o suficiente para dar a ela direito de voto.
You get your seat in Congress, and it is a seat without a vote.
The framers didn't quite know what to do, that we were so close to the centers of power. Would we have more influence than other Americans? Did you want a city that was, in effect, a hometown with an advantage, with power? Or did you want that city to be estranged from power, and they didn't quite know how to do it.
Membro do Congresso sem direito de voto? Parece até contraditório. Ironicamente, por lei, o representante de Washington, D.C., no Congresso não tem permissão para votar no plenário. A cidade, especialmente construída como o alicerce de poder da nação, de certa forma, deixou seus cidadãos sem poder algum. Algo difícil de entender para uma nova geração de americanos de Washington. Uma mulher que passou sua vida lutando pelo poder de outros. Direitos humanos, da mulher e hoje da próxima geração.
A generation that is going to bring sensible gun control to the United States of America.
Do you still enjoy it?
It's the best job you could have if you were born and raised in Washington, D.C. And I think my great-grandfather who escaped from slavery, who had the gumption to just walk away, I think he would say, Eleanor, you're right where you belong.
Do you have a sense of outrage still?
Oh, well, outrage is what keeps me moving.
Do you ever get disheartened?
I get fired up.
Really?
Há uma beleza incontestável em Washington, D.C. Do nascer ao pôr do sol, esta cidade é objeto de fotos dignas de obras de arte. E depois de saber que sua criação não foi por acaso, você entende como os Estados Unidos têm tradicionalmente usado Washington para proteger e projetar seu próprio poder.
It's too easy to dismiss Washington, D.C. as a parochial place obsessed by politics. To be sure, there are more exciting cities in the United States, from New York, Miami, or Los Angeles, but there's nowhere quite like this nation's capital. For it is here that you see the inherent contradictions in everyday life. Rights versus responsibilities, duty coupled with the demands of nationhood and being the world's only superpower. A visit to Washington, D.C. will also help you understand, perhaps, how America got to where it is today.
Ao chegar em Berlim, fica claro que a capital da Alemanha é muito diferente do que se imaginaria para o centro de governo da maior economia da Europa. Há poucos prédios reluzentes aqui e não se vê muito daquela correria frenética.
Think of the major European capitals: London, Paris, Rome, Madrid, giant metropolises with many millions of population. Berlin feels nothing like that. Wide open spaces, low-rise buildings. No, Berlin feels more like a town.
Habitável é uma boa palavra para Berlim. É uma cidade onde vamos encontrar pessoas noturnas e amantes da música techno, onde os jovens cheios de energia moram ao lado de uma sobrevivente do Holocausto, que decidiu voltar para sua amada Berlim após meio século. Berlim é a cidade dos contrastes.
Starting our visit here at the Brandenburg Gate may be seen by some as a bit of a cliché. I don't think so. It's the perfect symbol for Berlin. Think about it. It's a symbol of division. The gate was behind the old Berlin Wall in East Germany. And today, it's a symbol of unity.
Este mesmo lugar teve, muitas vezes, papel central na história de Berlim.
The Berlin Wall itself followed this particular path round the Brandenburg Gate. Where I am now would just be on the eastern side.
Mas foi no lado ocidental, em 1987, que o presidente dos Estados Unidos, Ronald Reagan, em frente a um painel de vidro à prova de balas, pronunciou seu famoso discurso.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Quando Reagan fez esse pedido, o muro já estava de pé havia mais de 25 anos. Muito antes, em 1963, o presidente John F. Kennedy visitou Berlim. Era o ápice da Guerra Fria.
And for the first time in history, the communist regime draped red curtains on the monument, thus preventing a view of East Berlin.
Kennedy falou uma frase em alemão que imediatamente se tornou parte da história de Berlim.
In the world of freedom, the proudest boast is, ich bin ein Berliner.
"50 anos depois de Kennedy, 30 anos depois de Reagan, o Muro de Berlim foi derrubado, permitindo que explorássemos a cidade como ela é hoje. É uma coisa muito berlinense alugar uma bicicleta. E é assim que Richard Quest vai se encontrar com o artista Ezra Rothhoff. Com sua câmera, ela imortaliza o que vê.
As a canvas,
Yes.
Berlin is what for you?
It's a playground, basically. Berlin is really a playground. So really an open stage where you can build up stuff very easily and no one would feel like you're in their way. So it's very open.
It's weird, this place. Would you agree?
It's my hometown, yes, but it's weird. Berlin has always been very particular. It's not Germany, no? It's always been different than the rest of Germany.
Ezra traz mais que o olhar cronista da fotógrafa.
So this poster is about a masculine feminine shot.
A mãe dela é turca. Aliás, Berlim tem a maior comunidade turca fora da Turquia. E a Alemanha continua a lidar com os desafios de receber mais de 1 milhão de refugiados.
Where are we going?
We're going to Kreuzberg.
Kreuzberg. How far is it?
It's a ride.
Immigration. the issue facing Germany, the introspection of Germany at the moment, that's having an effect here in Berlin, is it?
I see it differently because I see really the enrichment, the bigger the enrichment of different cultures coming together and living together. And I don't believe in borders. I don't believe in citizenship, but I'm also German, so it's very, from my perspective, very easy to say, of course, no? In this way, and maybe also very naive, as you will tell me. But at the same time, I want to believe that a society is only a strong society if we are able to carry along many different cultures and many people that are also in need.
And the interesting part is, though, all this in a city that 70 years ago was at the head of the Second World War.
I know. A lot of work.
It's extraordinary, that.
It's extraordinary.
Do you ever think about that?
Sometimes I do, of course. But I wouldn't say that's the whole identity or the DNA of the city, for sure not. I'm concerned about people that forget exactly this history too fast and just repeat the same things.
Final question.
Yes.
One word to describe this city.
Home.
Good answer.
Yeah, perfect. Chin up a little more. Open your eyes. Beautiful. At the same time, yeah. And now look at me.
Qualquer foto da cidade deve incluir o passado conturbado de Berlim no século XX. Para Ezra, a tolerância é essencial.
I'm sure we shouldn't be riding on the pavement.
It's totally illegal.
Viva e deixe viver.
Berlin, anything goes.
Um simples estacionamento a poucos metros do parlamento alemão. Ali era o bunker de Hitler, onde ele e Eva Braun cometeram suicídio em 1945. Fato que encerrou a Segunda Guerra Mundial.
They gambled with other people's liberty, and of course they lost their own.
Você não pode escapar da Segunda Guerra Mundial se for a Berlim. Richard Quest não sabe se tem a ver com a sua geração ou pelo fato de ser judeu, mas quando pensa em Berlim, inevitavelmente acaba se lembrando de Hitler e da crueldade do Holocausto, que assassinou 6 milhões de pessoas. É claro que a Alemanha pós-guerra sempre encarou essa atrocidade de frente. Então, bem no centro de Berlim, está o memorial em homenagem aos judeus assassinados.
I actually think this is one of the most effective memorials that I've ever visited. The size and scale, it's 5 acres, thousands of stones, but it's just the feeling you get right in the center.
Se este memorial é o epílogo do Holocausto, a 20 quilômetros dali está o prólogo, a mansão Wannsee. Foi nesta casa, numa área tranquila, que em 1942 foi realizada a conferência que daria início ao Holocausto. 15 oficiais nazistas se reuniram por 90 minutos para tramar o assassinato dos judeus da Europa. E segundo o convite para a reunião, ela seria seguida por um café da manhã.
No one in this room was in any doubt about what was being planned. They had already identified 11 million Jews to be exterminated across Europe. And the Wannsee Conference was about how to actually do it. So, in the final protocol, it says, in the course of the practical implementation of the final solution, Europe will be combed through from west to east. Doesn't get much clearer than that. There's a feeling of, the sadness all of a sudden overwhelms. This was the elevation of random murder into systematic mechanical killing on an industrial scale, and it started, the planning for that started here.
Não é difícil se emocionar ao pensar nos horrores que se originaram neste lugar. Para Quest, a única forma de dar sentido a esta atrocidade é falar com aqueles que sobreviveram a ela.
3 times Gestapo came.
Margot Friedlander é uma sobrevivente do Holocausto. Ela tinha 13 anos quando Hitler subiu ao poder e 21 quando foi para um esconderijo. Exatamente um ano após a conferência de Wannsee, a Gestapo veio buscar Margot e sua família.
And when I walked home, towards home, I saw a man going in front of me. And he looked different. I got a funny feeling in my stomach. Be careful. If you go into the building, be careful. And I walked up the stairs, and when I walked around, I saw him standing, this man, in front of our building, leaning with his back against our door.
So your brother had been taken?
Yes.
Your mother eventually went to find your brother?
I went to the neighbors 2 hours later. I expected my mother to be there, to wait for me. And the woman said to me, your mother left. She didn't leave a message for me in writing, but said, if you see my daughter, because they didn't know if they would see me, if you see her, tell her she should try to make her life.
She should try?
Try to make her life. Versuche dein Leben zu machen. Just these words. And then the woman hands me something my mother left for me. It was her handbag. And in the handbag was the necklace and her address book. I knew I would have to go into hiding.
When you go to bed at night, do you sleep well?
No, don't ask. I can show you my sleeping pills.
Aos 100 anos, Margot continua sendo símbolo de uma era. Uma mulher que sobreviveu ao campo de concentração de Theresienstadt. Ela voltou a Berlim para espalhar uma única mensagem.
It should not happen again. It could happen again. At least that I made it, I can thank my mother for it. Because if I would have gone with her, I would have ended up like she did in the gas. And at least I can now talk and say, be careful for the millions and millions and millions who couldn't make it.
As guerras mundiais são manchas históricas que nunca devem ser removidas. Mas Berlim tem outras marcas em sua trajetória, bem visíveis, aliás. O Muro de Berlim foi construído em 1961.
Honestly, there's nothing much new to say about the Berlin Wall, whose remnants in the city stand as a reminder of what happens when governments build physical obstacles to keep their citizens in or keep others out. Think Nicosia and Cyprus, the West Bank and Israel, and of course, the United States' southern border with Mexico, where Donald Trump wants to build his own wall. The Berlin Wall stands as a reminder of the awfulness of what we can do.
Berlim tem uma certa fama. O que a Alemanha tem de sólida, essa cidade tem de atrevida. E Berlim à noite é um lugar totalmente diferente. Ania Pavlova é uma autodeclarada melindrosa do século XXI. Ela se mudou de Moscou para Berlim para praticar a arte do teatro burlesco.
What is the art form in removing one's clothes?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
No, describe it then.
I think it's the most modern art form that there is, because it has to do with questions of race, sexual orientation, sexuality, and sexual freedom.
As liberdades de hoje estão enraizadas no passado permissivo de Berlim. Viva e deixe viver. Para Quest, é clara a referência à época inebriante da República de Weimar, tão subversiva naqueles dias imortalizada no musical Cabaré, com a libertação dos grilhões conservadores do Kaiser e do Império.
In Weimar era in Berlin, the cabarets flourished because people had nothing to hold on to.
There's no jobs, things are getting worse, and burlesque flourishes.
Yeah, nothing else to do and nothing else to sell but their own bodies. So those who were more fortunate, more beautiful, or had some talent got to get on stage and maybe do something as happy as cabaret.
So what's the art of doing that?
You're a peacock.
What?
A peacock is this tiny little chicken, really awkwardly colored, but as soon as it opens up the tail, you're like, gee, it's so beautiful. It's just one person. If you do burlesque, you're just one person taking their clothes off on an enormous stage sometimes.
You're quite intimidating.
I worked hard on that.
You are. You have succeeded. If I look at today's Berlin, it is a seemingly sleepy, it's a capital city that feels like a town.
It does. It's so slow. It's so relaxed.
Why?
Because it was widely underpopulated until quite recently. Now the pace has become, even in the last year, but it's still the city where anything goes.
What does that mean? Come on, that's a lovely little phrase, but what does it mean?
It's just the freedom of coexistence in the city. And you have these bourgeois German grandmothers in their furs and pearls. And you have all those mums at the playground with the tattoos on their necks and dreadlocks.
Which side is driving Berlin at the moment?
I think they're both going together, and that's the magic of Berlin.
Cabaré sempre será o legado desta cidade, mas agora há algo a acrescentar. Baladas? Não dá para ignorar as baladas. Pessoas do mundo todo vêm aqui para se divertir e por um motivo principal, a música techno, as noitadas, os DJs e os discos de vinil. Tudo isso confere a Berlim a coroa de capital mundial do techno. A DJ Peggy Gou se mudou para Berlim a fim de se aperfeiçoar. Hoje ela se apresenta para plateias de todo o mundo.
I didn't understand the genre techno, but Berlin made me understand that. I studied in London, right? But Berlin upgraded me.
As baladas de lá fazem muito sucesso. Aliás, a balada mais famosa de Berlim, Berghain, teve seus impostos reduzidos. Parece que as autoridades tributárias consideram que o techno tem relevância cultural. Techno ou house? Eis a diferença.
Put house there, put techno here.
All right.
Define what is great house music.
It's groovy, has a lot of soul. So when you hear it, you're like, wow, wow, wow. Wait, the kick drum. You will hear the big difference when you hear the kick drum. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming.
So it's Christmas. Oh,
now this is, do you like it? Is it wow?
Wow, it's wowish.
Agora, vamos trocar.
Now this isn't just any old techno, is it? This is techno.
This is techno.
From where?
It's from Berlin. Can you feel the difference?
Well, of course I can hear the difference. This one's thumping away, and this one will have your fillings out. This one will have your fillings out your back molars. Now let's hear yours.
All right. I'm actually singing in Korean in this track, in my own language.
Where's your singing? Ooh. Go on, sing it for real.
No.
I like it.
Thank you.
Peggy Gou e Anya Pavlova resumem bem o que é contraste. Coreia e Rússia. Techno e cabaré. Berlim é o palco que elas dividem.
Life is a cabaret, old chum.
It's only a cabaret, old chum.
A cabaret.
Will the fact that it is a major capital city in the most powerful country in Europe eventually swamp the culture, the clubbers, the cabarets?
I don't think so. This is Berlin, the city that survived 2 world wars. The wall. And it's still there. It's still standing.
Time and again I've been told Berlin is not Germany and Germany's not Berlin. True, to be sure. Solid, staid, efficient Germany versus rebellious, counterculture Berlin with its live for today mentality. Think about it. Until 30 years ago, there was a big wall right over there dividing the city. Well, the wall has now gone, the legacy remains, and the lessons have been learned.
Então, por que Quest sentiu a necessidade de ir a Berlim? Simples. Indo até lá, ele pôde ver os erros do passado e entender como todos podem coexistir neste mundo de maravilhas.